just
It's 7
wondering what
o'clock,
it's going to be
and
like.
I am Jennifer Traeger, current chair, and I call this meeting of the Silver Falls School District Board of Directors to order, and we will start with the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we have a new look tonight. This is three new board members that are joining us, and we will commence with their oath of office. Tom, we were supposed to start with Tom because we were going to go to alphabetical order, but he's
walking
lagging.
in now. He just shot me a message.
So we'll go to the next person in alphabetical order, which is Derek. So Derek, do you have that in front of you?
I do.
Okay, it's your turn to read.
I'll start with the beginning. Board member oath of office states any elected or appointed board member must qualify by taking an oath of office before assuming the duties of office. The oath of office will be in the following form. I, Derek Foxworth, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Oregon, and the laws thereof, and the policies of Silver Falls School District. I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of school board member according to the best of my ability during the term for which I have been appointed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome. Hi, Tom. So we're all here now, but we'll let you get settled and we'll go on to Josh. It's your turn to read the oath.
Yep. I, Josh Ort, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Oregon, and the laws thereof, and the policies of the Silver Falls School District. I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of the school board member according to the best of my ability during the term for which I have been appointed.
All right, you're official. We'll go to Phil next.
I, Phil Wiesner, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Oregon, and the laws thereof, and the policies of the Silver Falls School District. I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of school board member according to the best of my ability during the term for which I have been appointed.
All right, welcome, Phil. Tom, your turn.
Okay. I, Tom Buchholz, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Oregon, and the laws thereof, and the policies of the Silver Falls School District. I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of school board member according to the best of my ability during the term for which I have been appointed.
Term number 4, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so the next order of business is number 4, to nominate and elect the board chairperson. As far as procedure goes, I'd like us to bring up nominees, and then after that, we can do a specific motion, and if we need more discussion, we can have more discussion after that. But we'll just go with nominations, discussion, and then motion, and further discussion if necessary.
Well, I'd like to start off by nominating Jennifer Traeger to be board chair.
I would accept that. I don't think you have to second, but you can go
Okay.
ahead and second. I would accept that nomination. Thank you. Any discussion?
I thought you've done a wonderful job so far, so.
Well, thank you. I appreciate everybody's support, and my only ask would be that if I'm making a mistake during a meeting, that you speak up and so we can fix it. All right, any other nominations, any other discussion? Okay, Steve's gonna call the vote for us tonight because Debbie's not here.
Did we get a second, or did
Tom seconded, but I don't think you need seconds
Sorry,
for
Tom.
that, but
Okay.
just
Okay.
in case.
Got it.
Got
Just in
it.
case.
Owen,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Aaron? Yes. Phil?
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I really like it when we're united in the election of board leadership too. That's awesome. So let's go on to the vice chairperson. Again, I will take nominations. We can discuss in general, then a motion and more discussion if necessary, and then we'll vote.
Well, I'd like to nominate Aaron Cook as our vice chair.
Seconded. Not that we don't have.
All right. Let's have discussion or any other nominations.
I'll say the same thing. I thought you guys did a fantastic job the last time, so I don't see any reason for it to change.
I like working with Aaron.
She's pretty all right too. So
We're a good team. All right, well, then let's go ahead, if there's no more discussion, and we will take the vote.
Owen,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Aaron,
yes.
and Phil.
Yes.
All right, I think the motion carries. We next will read the board superintendent operating agreement. I promise moving forward that I will do a better job of keeping track of who reads it during meetings, but when in doubt, I ask Aaron.
Totally fine. Under collaborative governance, members of the board and superintendent, members of the board and the superintendent will work together in good faith as a team in the best interest of students, modeling a willingness to learn together. Board members will recognize and respect the superintendent's responsibility to manage the school district and to direct employees in district and school matters. Board members will give careful consideration, listening to all perspectives to all issues brought to the board by individuals and district leadership. The board may only make decisions at properly called meetings. Board members recognize that individual members have no authority to take individual action in policy or district and school administrative matters unless so authorized by board vote. Under communication agreements, board members must follow the chain of responsibility and communicate directly with the superintendent when a question arises, or a concern or a complaint is voiced by staff member, student, parent, or community member. Board members will endeavor to communicate directly with the superintendent or board chair prior to meetings of the board to address questions and or concerns about agenda items. Board members and the superintendent recognize that good answers often require preparation in advance of board meetings. When a board member and or the superintendent has an individual concern, he or she must communicate one-on-one with any member of the board superintendent team as appropriate. And in the interest of public transparency and full, robust debate, board members will endeavor to actively engage in and contribute to board discussions and to share their perspectives on topics before the board. Full participation from members in advance of a vote supports the board in making informed, well-considered decisions on important district matters.
Thanks, Aaron. And we will be revisiting the board superintendent agreement during the next meeting. At least that's the plan right now during the work session. All right, number 7 is agenda review. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the agenda as published.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the agenda as published. Steve?
Owen,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
and Phil.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, and number 8 is to designate the following, and I'm not going to read all those, but those are our annual designations. I think we do need to have a motion that just says something like approve the annual designations or something like that. So I'll take a motion.
Move that the annual designations listed in item number 8 of the agenda be approved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the annual designations designated in item number 8 be approved.
Owen,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
and Phil.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And we also have a consent agenda, which is a lot like what we just did. So I will take a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as published.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as published. I'm assuming no discussion, so we'll take the vote.
Owen,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Phil.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. Next is number 10, public comment. And I'm going to read this statement now. We're glad you're here and welcome you to address the board with your ideas, concerns, or compliments. Please keep the following in mind. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand to be recognized by the board chair. If attending remotely, please use the raise hand feature within Zoom. For the record, please provide your name and relationship to the district. Please keep individual remarks to 3 minutes. If speaking as a representative on behalf of a group of 3 or more, comment time will be extended to 5 minutes. A second public comment period will occur later in the meeting that is specific to discussion and action items only. The board will not hear complaints against individual district staff or board members during public comment. Please understand that the board's primary role is to listen, and you likely will not receive an immediate response. Finally, remember we all model the way for our students and ask that you share your thoughts respectfully and in accordance with the Silver Falls School District Board Decorum Agreement. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a comment? Is there anybody?
Nobody online has raised their hand.
All right.
Still no hands raised.
Okay. I guess we'll go to administrator and staff reports. So superintendent report is first. Scott?
Great. I'm just going to give Daniel a second to get the slides pulled up. And well, welcome, new board. It's really exciting for me to get started to work with you. We had 4 seats open. 3 of you are new to the board. I think our future in Silver Falls looks extremely bright. We've been through some really challenging times to get here, the most challenging times in the history of our country. So you're coming into the board during a very important time in the district's history, and you have monumental decisions ahead of you, not the least of which is the bond election, which the previous board took action on in June. And so I want to spend a couple minutes tonight just talking about the big picture of Silver Falls. That's what I want to do. Because at board work sessions and board meetings, I will be working with you on all manner of details, some to build our capacity as leaders. So some of the things I'll be working with will be for our own professional learning. And then others will be to walk you through challenging issues or to get your feedback on the certain topics that we're working on. But we'll get to all that. And so all those right now are details. Because what we are focused on as a board superintendent team is right here on this slide, and that is the Silver Falls School District Strategic Plan. Every single thing we do in this district should be pointed at achieving these 3 goals within this timeline here. So this is just a simple representation of what was the 20-page Silver Falls School District Strategic Plan. If you'd like to read that, it's on our district website, and you can knock yourself out there. But I would say that this is the best representation because it really boils down to 3 goals. And those of you who are veteran board members already know this. You've seen this 1,000 times. Tom, could you read the mission statement for us?
Working together to cultivate character and academic growth in each student every day.
Each student every day. And Aaron, could you read the vision statement?
Each student graduates prepared to lead a fulfilling life.
And how about goal number 1? Jennifer, could you read that?
Each student on track to graduate.
So 100% of our students on track to graduate. And Owen, could you read number 2, goal number 2?
Each student has the SEL to navigate.
And that's a kind of a shortened way to say that students will have the social, emotional skills to navigate their world. And then number 3, Josh, could you read that for us? You've seen this before.
Facilities reflect our love and respect for our students.
Yeah, facilities reflect our love and respect for our students. This one here is an enormous focus for this coming school year. Because right now, our facilities do not reflect the love and respect we have for our students. We have a lot of work we need to do. And every single one of our schools in Silver Falls, all 11 facilities, need significant upgrades and improvements. And we want to make sure that our schools are here for a very long time. Having said that, this is the 5-year strategic plan. Jerry Colonna came in 2018 and worked with all kinds of different community groups to get input, working with the board at that time. And that's how they produced the strategic plan. I would say, if you've worked in other districts and you've asked, and you were asked what your district at that time, what their strategic plan was, I'll bet that the majority of people you asked wouldn't know what it was. As is the case for the vast majority of school districts in the state of Oregon. Strategic plans are really just a set of motions that you go through, because that's what the law says. You have to have a strategic plan as a school district. But here at Silver Falls School District, ours is alive and well. And so I'm just starting off with this slide because you will see this 1,000 more times, because everything that we do here is aimed at accomplishing these 3 goals. You, as a school board, will also be responsible for the next strategic plan. And so sometime in 2004, 2005, we'll go through that same process again to come up with the next 5-year plan. And so for each year, the first year was supposed to be 2019 for the strategic plan, but nothing was implemented because it was a tumultuous year for leadership. We had an interim superintendent, and then that spring went into COVID. So we really started the strategic plan in 2020. And so with that 5-year strategic plan, we also have a yearly focus. So each year of the strategic plan, we have to have a focus that advances our cause towards achieving those 3 goals. And so this is the visual for this year's focus, 2023, 2024. And Aaron, let me ask you, has this changed much in the past 2 years, this focus? Has it changed much?
It's the core has been the same, but there's been some minor tweaks to the tenets of each part.
So the core has been the same tenets are there, because any high-performing organization doesn't go and reinvent the wheel every year. They stick with what works. And here are the details. These are the key strategies that will get us towards meeting the 3 goals of the strategic plan here. And then there are some other things here, but I don't want to focus on those tonight because I'll get to those, and you will end up having intimate knowledge of how we are going about achieving the 3 goals using these key strategies. What I want to focus on is the bigger picture of these 2 things, teamwork and feedback. One of the things you just heard when Jennifer read the decorum statement for public comment is we model the way for our students. The 2 most important, or 2 of the most important strategies to increase student achievement in schools, and with that I also mean social emotional learning, are teamwork and feedback. Those are proven to be the two of the highest strategies in terms of yield for student engagement and achievement in education. And if you want to read more on that, you can pick up John Hattie's latest work. You will not find a broader, more robust body of research than Visible Learning, which covers, I think it says right there, 1,800 meta-analyses, 80,000 studies, touching 300 million students. And what he did was he and his team came up with effect sizes. And a 0.4 effect size is also called a hinge point. And that's a strategy that really moves the dial for an organization or in terms of learning for kids. And so the point I guess I want to make here is that what we do here in Silver Falls is we base our actions, our adult actions, and how we organize for student success on research, on current evidence of what works. And so if you look up at collective teacher efficacy, that's just a fancy word for teamwork. And what type of yield does that give us, Jennifer? You're pretty well versed in collective teacher efficacy. Why is that so important?
Well, because you can like take a whole year and get way more than a year's worth of results out of it. Like, how many years is it? 4? I don't remember.
So at the top of the list is teamwork, and kids can make up 4 years worth of growth in one school year if we base our organization on teamwork. And that is groups of teachers coming together to plan for instruction, to assess standards of instruction, to know what was actually learned versus what was intended to be taught. That can have ginormous outcomes by way of student achievement and growth. And then the feedback is how all living organisms in the universe get better. We get better with our interactions with others, and we get better by being open and teachable. And we might sit down and you might have feedback from me on something that went well or something that didn't go well so that I can improve. And when we sit down, and we will on a regular basis individually, I'll have feedback for you on things you can do better, maybe in the role that you're in. And that's how we get better together. That's how teams get better, and that's how organizations get better. Show me a high-functioning district, and I will show you a high-functioning board-superintendent relationship. And I guarantee you the foundation for that high-functioning board-superintendent relationship is based on teamwork and feedback. And so you're going to be hearing a lot about that if you're new, but that's because it is the ultimate competitive advantage. Teamwork coupled with feedback is the ultimate competitive advantage. And that's what we're all about in Silver Falls. And so I just wanted to end by going back to this document we call the Board Superintendent Agreement, because this really encapsulates these two concepts of teamwork and feedback. And so you heard Aaron read about the collaborative governance. This is how we do business. We do business in public. We don't do business with the public. These meetings are open to anybody who wants to attend. And these 4 really focus on the teamwork aspect. These down here are how we're going to treat each other. So it's going to be how we're going to do business, and down here, kind of think about that as how we're going to treat each other. Those 2 things are absolutely critical that we get right and that we keep at the forefront of our minds. All high-functioning teams have norms, all of them. And all high-functioning teams have norms that they regularly review. And that's what we do as a board superintendent team, and that's what we do with every single team that I lead in Silver Falls School District, and every single team that every other administrator leads has norms. And they revisit those, and they're intentional about how we're going to do business together and how we're going to treat each other. In my humble opinion, this is the number one thing that is getting in the way of school boards across the country. Right now, the 2 most difficult jobs in the country are board member and superintendent. And 99% of the time, it's because strong boards or boards who are having issues aren't strong on how they're going to do business and how they're going to treat each other. And so I just want to touch on that tonight. So if you can walk away tonight remembering a couple of things about teamwork and feedback, and know that in Silver Falls School District, we have a document that is living and breathing, and it's called the Board Superintendent Operating Agreement. And we will be coming up with a revised edition or a brand new one at the work session in July. And so having said that, Jennifer, I'll take any questions, but that really wraps up the message that I wanted to give tonight at this board meeting. Questions, thoughts, comments?
I'll just say, like, having, been on the board here now 2 years, and, coming out of a board climate at that point that was a bit tumultuous, and then our new board, 2 years ago, coming together and forming together, and we had to tackle some real difficult subjects, ones that we all didn't agree on. But one thing I think that helped anchor us from none of those hard discussions going off the rails was our commitment to these tenets, to these the communication agreements, and then just how we go about collaborative governance. Those are the things that helped center us when we had some really, really hard conversations that could have gone very emotional, it could have gone very awry, because of our commitment to these. We were able to navigate them with a lot of grace, with a lot of understanding. Again, not always in agreement 100%, but with understanding, with grace, and with peace in our board and in our working relationship with Scott. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate how, we read these a lot, and it may sound like we're just kind of broken records when we read through these, but they're important to make sure that we're grounded in these commitments as a board.
Agreed. I think that things are really tough, and we fared decently, and that was for the good of our community and for the good of our students. And so I think that those really help us stay focused on what's important for our students. So, I'm thankful.
Would you say, Jennifer and Aaron, that we refer back to the board superintendent agreement frequently when we meet weekly for our board chairs meeting? If we're working through challenging topics, that we reference the board superintendent agreement?
We do. Like if something feels off, oftentimes we can find what's off.
How do we want to handle that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and welcome.
Thanks, Scott. All right, next up is the integrated guidance update, and Leslie Roach, Director of Teaching and Learning, will give us that.
I'm just going to give Danielle a second to pull up the next presentation. And we'll click it all the way back to the beginning. There we go. So welcome, new board members. You haven't had the pleasure of hearing me share all of this information a bunch. This is a template from ODE, and it is time to update you all on our longitudinal performance growth targets. So basically our goals that we set in conjunction as a team with ODE, that we will be, you will be having to have an action item in August and approve the grant agreement. So this is an informational session for you. You can ask me questions, you can reach out afterwards, but you will need to vote on this next month. So the purpose of today's presentation is to go through our longitudinal performance growth targets. Districts were also able to set local optional metrics, and we did not do that for this round. We stuck with just the required goal setting. Tell you a little bit about how we set our LPGTs, and then again, as part of the statute for the SIA grant agreement, you have to vote on this next month.
And for the folks who don't know what SIA is, do you want to explain that?
Yeah, student investment account. So this graphic will kind of tells you the big picture of integrated guidance. It is 6 different programs that are now rolled all into one application, one way of reporting. We report on how we're doing in narrative form. We report with data, and report financials quarterly and then annually. And so you'll be hearing from me a lot during this, at least once a quarter is kind of where we've been landing. So high school success, otherwise known as Measure 98, student investment account, continuous improvement planning, career and technical education, everyday matters, which is attendance, and early indicator and intervention systems. Those are the grants. I anticipate that the new legislature for early literacy will be folded into this as well, and I'll have an update for you once the state gets that down to us. So we have written an application for our specific needs around all of those programs. We have submitted it to the state. It has been approved. We then have met with the state and looked at our student data and set goals. So I'll go a little bit over what our plan is and then our goals so that you all have that background knowledge. So our integrated plan has 4 outcomes. Outcome number 1 is 90% graduation rate across all demographic groups. And the strategies that we're using to meet that outcome are Sequoia Falls Academy, so that's a therapeutic education setting for high school students. We have added dropout prevention at the high school, as well as advanced course offerings, professional development to provide equitable learning outcomes, so that relates back to guaranteed and viable curriculum, and we've expanded our CTE courses. Outcome number 2 is 100% of students on track to graduate by the end of 9th grade. And we have really specific strategies focused on 8th grade, the 8th grade year and transitioning to high school, and then freshman transition planning. So summer Fox Camp for incoming freshmen, and then specific freshman courses to help get students on track.
I want to say that was a huge help for my daughter her freshman year last year. That program coming from a small rural school, that was huge for her. So
we're glad to hear that. Outcome number 3, 53% of 3rd graders reading at grade level across all demographic groups. And the strategies in our plan this year are really around multi-tiered systems of support. So figuring out, okay, this is what core is, this is what all students get, and what additional things can we put in place for students who aren't achieving that yet or who already are achieving that. And then as well as professional development to provide equitable learning outcomes. So guaranteed and viable curriculum, setting that foundational core that all students are not in the educational lottery, they're all getting the same thing. Outcome number 4 is 95% of our students regularly attend school with a focus on our students with disabilities and students of color. Those are our 2 demographic groups that have struggled the most with attendance. Our strategies for this are community engagement, equitable access to social, behavioral, and mental health supports, engaging music instruction, and inclusive and active play spaces, and welcome centers. So that's the big picture highlight of the plan that we submitted to the state. There's a lot of small details in there. The whole application, again, is on our website. The past board presentations are on our website, and I'm always available to you if you have additional questions. So now here's the part from the state that I'll go over. So the LPGTs, our goals, again, are the final stage of our application process. It's required by statute. It will be embedded in our grant agreement, and I will report annually on our progress on these goals. So ODE has some really specific approaches and responsibilities. They see it as a shared responsibility because they are ensuring that taxpayer dollars are being expended appropriately for compliance with federal and state laws, regulations, and policies, while also meeting the intent of the legislation and enacting real change in districts and charter schools, communities, and the lives of our students. So this is all new funding sources outside of what we get from the state on a per pupil basis. These are all executed as grants, and so the intent of the grants are really to impact change in our educational setting and look for students and communities that aren't successful in our educational setting and do something to support them more differently. So that's the purpose behind these grants. Monitoring and reporting progress is a responsibility and opportunity to share a performance review back to our communities and boards whether our investments are reaching outcomes we were aiming for. And previous accountability measures often serve to narrow the curriculum using shame and blame of schools as an overly simplistic tactic while offering overpromised or oversimplified outcomes. So this is a change from how they've done things in the past. They're hoping that it's, instead of the shame and blame type of race to the top type of grants that you might have seen in the past, we know that data is going to change, ebb and flow, it's a roller coaster, but what are you doing systemically to make changes in your district? That's what they're looking for. Roller coaster picture right there. So Their ODE values monitoring and evaluation is central to learning and program implementation. Context matters. Our goals must be flexible and adaptive. Goals and metrics need to be realistic, ambitious, and attainable. Progress is not linear, and all measures of progress are not created equal. So again, we have multiple performance measures as part of these grants. The LPGTs is just one part of that. We have high school success eligibility requirements. We have state CTE Perkins performance targets, progress markers, quarterly and financial reporting, annual reporting. Our SIA grant funds are audited, and we have performance reviews. And again, the highlighted portion right there, local optional metrics, we are not setting at this time. So ODE met with a Silver Falls team, myself, Patrick Mulligan from the high school, Brandon Larson from our special services department, and Melissa Linder representing K-8s. Met with an ODE team. We looked through our data and we co-developed goals. The goals are required the same outcomes that I talked about: graduation, third grade reading, ninth grade on track, and regular attenders are what's required for LPGTs. And then this is the type of goals that we're required to set. We have a baseline of a minimum level of growth, a stretch target, which is more ambitious, and then a gap closing that's meant for closing the gap of our student focal groups. We looked at historic trends for each metric, and then we evaluated where we thought we would grow based on the initiatives that are in our plan. So a couple things to think about as well. The Silver Falls School District in general is above the state average in all of these metrics. And so because of that, our growth potentially could be slower because we are already scoring higher than what the state sees. So our 4-year graduation targets are there. That's probably pretty small for you to see. This will be published, so you'll have access to it. Our baseline target is set off of last year's, or the 21-22 actual graduation rate, which was 89.3%. So we added 0.7% for our baseline target. So for 23-24, we would set that at 90%. For our stretch target, we did a full percentage point, so 90.3%. And for our gap closing target, we did 2 percentage points. So my notes are, of course, going out. It's 83%. Thank you, Tammy. 83.8%. So 3 percentage points higher than where those student focal groups ended in 21-22. And then it goes up incrementally for the next 5 years. That's what that chart shows. Our student focal groups change for each of these metrics as well, but examples of student focal groups are students experiencing poverty, students experiencing mobility, students experiencing homelessness, students in special education, those types of groups. Our 5th year graduation rate ended the year in 21-22 at 96%, which is very high, and the state actually advises us not to set any goals above 96%. So our baseline target is at 96%, our stretch target quickly closes into 96%, and our gap closing target starts at 92% and ends at 96%. So that's a very high data point for us. Regular attenders, our attendance rate fell significantly during COVID, and so we're not sure how this is going to look coming back. Historically, our attendance has been very high, but we ended 21-22 at 68.9% district-wide for attendance, which is very low.
What is considered a regular attender?
A regular attender is someone who attends the full school year with less than 10 absences in a year.
Excused or unexcused?
Well, now you're getting tricky. Technically, it doesn't matter if it's excused or unexcused. An absence is an absence for the data reporting. So we set our goal at baseline to grow 1% each year. So going up 23-24 to 69.9%. For our stretch target, we wanted to grow 2% a year. And for our gap closing, we wanted to grow 4% per year. Our gap closing is starting next year, though, by reaching 58.5%. So our students experiencing poverty, homelessness, mobility, who identify as migrant, all of those students are really struggling to attend school at a much higher rate than our other students. So you can see how things like our Welcome Center, our community engagement, our community liaisons, those positions that we've been adding through our grants are really targeted towards bridging that gap for students. Third grade ELA. So this perhaps is the most concerning data that I see in this set. We ended our 21-22 school year at 50% of our third graders reading at grade level. We are still above the state average. So that's incredibly low. We have been investing in this and we hope to invest more, but the state really urged me to revise these goals to be attainable. They thought my original goals were set too high. So for baseline, I'm hoping to grow 2% per year. For stretch, 3.4% per year. And for gap closing, I had originally set at 8% and they had me back it down to 4%. So I'm really hopeful and we're doing a lot of work in this area. So it's more than hope, it's really targeted. But just so you all know, I know we had a great discussion about this data point the last time I presented. We are doing a lot of work in this and the state is advising us to change our goals to be more attainable, but we're really pushing forward in this area.
Leslie, a question on that. Has that been consistent historically as far as that 50%?
Yes. And then ninth grade on track. We ended 21-22 at 94.5% of our ninth graders on track. So again, we are much higher than the state average and we have some really solid plans in place. We're set to hit the 96% mark pretty quickly in all of our areas there. So what we learned through this process, our attendance was deeply impacted by COVID, which, we enacted policies where you shouldn't come to school if you have certain symptoms, so it's very understandable. So we hope that we get attendance back on track. Third grade reading continues to be highly concerning. We must continue to set reasonable targets while also improving our instructional practices. And really our focus should continue to be on gap closing measures because that seems to be the students who are achieving less than our other students. So continuing to focus on our student focal groups and what we're doing to support them and tracking their data.
I have one more question real quick. For you, Leslie, about the attendance thing. Do we keep stats on the reasons why there's an absence, whether they're sick or I'm anxious or that?
We have some of that because we do put codes in according to if we get a reason why a student isn't coming to school, but some of that is we need to know the kiddo and really have the team making an attendance plan for a student. We know that anxiety and lots of things get in the way of a student coming to school, and so once we start to see a pattern, it's really important that we have a team behind that student and family to support them.
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed in my work is that families don't, because we have in our greater society, there's a huge income gap, and we have families working really hard just to survive, and they don't necessarily have the tools that it takes to get their kids to school. And anxiety is a huge thing. The kid doesn't want to go. The family doesn't have the resources to give the kid what they need to get them to school. It's really, I mean, I'm sure it's same all over. Anyway, I just wanted to add that to just give a piece of reality to us who probably don't have those situations at home. That is really a huge problem that's going on.
One of the comments I wanted to make before we turn it over to you, Board, Derek asked a very, very key question, that is, how has the data looked historically? Well, and Leslie said, yes, it's been the same, but to give you more context, 7 years ago, third graders were scoring 50%. 50% meeting, 50% not meeting. 7 years later, 50%. And in between, 50%. So there's been no change in 7 years. And that should be even more concerning than just the 50% number.
What's the theory behind why that?
Well, there's a lot behind that, and we'll be working with you during the work sessions on how we dig into that. If you remember last year, Board, we did that a couple work sessions where we dug in to really try to understand, because with a systemic problem or challenge like that can only be remedied through a systemic and systematic response. And so that's what we'll be working on together.
And it seems to me like Leslie backed off on those reading goals, but really, like, that's the official goal, but really you're hoping to see a higher attainment.
Yeah, and I think when you look at our strategic plan that Scott shared with you tonight, guaranteed and viable curriculum is such a huge part of our work, and that is providing equitable outcomes for all students across the board. In No More Educational Lottery, you get the same instructional experience in every classroom. And that's the work we've been doing and we're continuing to do. And that's really where we see the leverage point.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, it's just an interesting stat. Either the test is historically wrong, or we have a historic problem with getting our third graders to meet that test or standard.
Well, it just hasn't
No.
moved. Yeah, the achievement level hasn't moved, and that's what the guaranteed and viable is supposed to be trying to do, and to change that dial.
Since this information is really also geared towards breaking down who's not making progress as they should, our students of poverty, our students of color, that sort of thing. If you look at that same data over 7 years, that gap between our students in the majority and then our students in those different subgroups has also not closed. And so that's something else where our instructional reforms are really geared towards addressing that.
Thank you, Leslie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I mentioned in my email message to y'all that the funding sources are getting it's complicated. It's gotten way more complicated in the last 3 or 4 years. And so it's something that we can help educate the public about a little bit, because people wonder where different money comes from and what like we were talking about the dropout prevention, right? Like that's specifically an SIA kind of grant, or the people that we're hiring to connect with families. That's not coming out of our general fund, that's coming out of the SIA, which is specifically targeted towards those kinds of services for families. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
All right, well, we'll move on to item 12, discussion items. And the one discussion item that we have tonight is the agenda template. If you have a chance to look at that. We did not change this last year. We just readopted it, but we are certainly able to change it if we so choose. It's just one of those things that we do every year to kind of say, this is our plan.
It would be you existing board members that would probably want to, if anybody would change something, is there anything you guys would like to change?
I think we're, in my opinion, we're pretty comprehensive in what we've covered. I don't think we've had any issues with any type of things with the agenda.
A couple years ago, we made a bunch of changes, but
Yeah,
this is working.
I think since then, things have been pretty solid. I mean, I'm open for any new set of eyes on this too, but for the most part, I think it's working quite well for us.
Well, and periodically, or I should say rarely, we do make changes to the order, to accommodate special circumstances or somebody's special schedule or something like that. So it can always be, amended for a particular meeting.
Yeah, it just provides predictability, I think, in general. So, and those things that the new things that we incorporated a couple years ago were the agenda review. That was not something that we were doing. And it was really important for us to all say, yes, we're in this, and to really be thoughtful and intentional about that. And then also the opportunity for future agenda item requests. For me, I just felt like that was important, that we had a chance to say something in public, because you don't have to say it in public, but what if Owen wants to talk about something and he keeps bugging the superintendent about it and it doesn't get on the agenda? Well, he has a chance to bring it up, and then maybe other people say, oh, Owen brought that up at the meeting, I want to talk to the superintendent about getting that on the agenda too. So it just gives a chance to, be able to hear what other people are thinking about what they want to have on the agenda.
How often does that happen?
Half the time, maybe, less than half. It's not, we don't use it a ton. Mostly because I think of our communication. Scott does a good job of keeping in touch with everybody and what everybody's concerns and individual priorities are, and so it's kind of it happens organically. The agenda meets everybody's needs.
I really appreciated your email you sent out, so.
They won't
To
always
us.
be that long.
Okay.
Thank you, though. I wanted to make sure you guys had everything you needed. Okay, any other discussion? Sounds like we're all pretty happy about it, or happy with it. So I think we probably just need a motion to adopt or re-adopt the published agenda, or published agenda template.
So Jennifer, you do have public comment before that action item. unless
Oh,
you-
yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
That's what I was talking about when I said you need to tell me if I'm making a mistake. Okay, let's go to public comment then. Anybody suddenly want to say anything? Is there anybody online?
Nobody online has raised their hand.
Thank you, Dan, for bringing that up. So let's go to the action items. We just discussed the agenda template. We can discuss it again, or somebody can make a motion and we can discuss it, or just vote.
I move to continue with our standard agenda template.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we continue with our standard agenda template. I'm assuming there's no discussion, but interrupt me if there is. And Steve?
Owen,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
and Phil.
Yes.
7-0 motion carries.
All right. So we'll go to number 15, which is future agenda item request. Is there a topic that you are interested in seeing on the agenda? All right. I think then, if there is no objection, meeting adjourned.